Okay, hello everyone and welcome back to World of Tanks Blitz. We're here going to be doing a garage review of this thing, the FV201 A45, the heavy tank. Everyone will know this tank from PC, where it's just not particularly amazing. And in Blitz, you know, it's alright, it's a fairly decent tank. So we'll just be going through its stats here. So, oh god, they've changed everything. Yeah, I haven't played Blitz for ages, if I'm honest. I recorded gameplay of this thing many months ago, and I haven't actually got around to doing the review of this thing, the actual garage review of this thing. But yeah, so let's have a look. So we'll just go the stats here, shall we? So it's got 540 HP, and that is including improved assembly. So if I was to take that off, it goes down to, what is that, 1450, which is still a fairly decent amount for a heavy tank. It's not as much as the Tiger, although I could be confusing the Tiger with the PC variant. Does this thing still have... yeah, it still has 450, so that has 450, that has 450. The IS-2 has got, what, 1280? 1300, sorry, it's got 1300 HP. That's got a bunch because, you know, Tankenstein. So yeah, overall it's got a decent amount of HP for a heavy tank. Yeah, nothing too bad at all. As for the armour, 152 front of the turret, 88 sides and rear, frontal hull 76, 50 sides, 38 rear. Nothing particularly too amazing, especially for a heavy tank. There are probably mediums here that have got more armour than this thing. And, I mean, it is 76 at the front, but it has got a decent amount of sloping on it, so you will bounce some smaller caliber guns, or guns with penetration that's nothing too amazing. For example, I think the 1375, yeah, 144 average pen with its AP on its 75mm, so you could bounce some shots off the front there, but overall, unless you're particularly angling it a lot and a shell happens to hit it at sort of this angle, you're not likely to get that many bounces off of this thing. And the front of the turret, 152, but again, like many British turrets, it is going to be 152 in certain parts, not as the majority, and especially with the fact that the cupola up there, that's going to be the weak spot on the front of the tank, although really the whole of the tank is a weak spot. You can't side scrape in it with only 50 side armour. I mean, the Tiger sort of works because it's 80 side armour and it's very flat, whereas this thing has got side skirts and all sorts of stuff on it. And yeah, rear of tanks, yeah, they're never particularly well armoured. So overall, not particularly great in terms of armour. 20% chance of foreign impact, which is meh, and 256 meters view range, which is not too bad. As for manoeuvrability, 31 kilometers per hour top speed. Oh, it actually gives you reverse speed as well now. Interesting. But yes, so 31 kilometers per hour top speed. Average is going to be 27, so not particularly fast. The Tiger and Tiger P will outpace it with those sorts of stats. The Mutant here, that's got, what is it, 29, 26, yeah, so it's quicker than a Mutant, but it's not going to be particularly fast in terms of heavy tanks, so yeah, nothing too much on the manoeuvrability there. Power to weight is only 14.3 tons. Overall, has a weighs 55 tons, 37 degrees per second turret traverse, and 32 degrees per second hull traverse. Nothing too particularly amazing. Hull traverse, not too bad. It's over 30 degrees per second, which is decent enough, but it's not particularly too amazing. I have no idea what these stats are that they're putting here, but thanks for giving them to us. And it's got an 800 horsepower engine, so yeah, that's great and all that. But now we come to the gun, because, you know, when people think of tanks, they always want to know how good is the gun, especially in World of Tanks. You don't want a particularly bad gun. So what's this gun? Well, the gun is a Ordnance Quickfire 17-pounder Mark 7, which has got, here we go, 3.39 seconds reload time. Not particularly too bad. 171 average pen with AP, 239 with APCR, and 20 with HE. We all know the standard now. It's a 17-pounder. They're all going to be pretty much the same with that. But so it's not particularly bad penetration, but at tier 7 it's starting to drop off a bit. Still, Russian 122s only have a couple more millimeters of penetration, but they're wildly inaccurate, but they do more damage. Because this is only a 76mm gun, it only does 160 average damage with AP, 135 with APCR, and 200 with HE, which is, not particularly great. But the point of this gun, and it's the same with things like the, I don't actually have one on here on PC, but it's the same idea as with the, I've forgotten what the name is, AT-15A, there you go. Same as the AT-15A, in that it's got a fast rate of fire but low damage output, so it doesn't do it all in one big hit and then have a big reload time like the Mutant or the IS-2 or indeed the Tankenstein, but instead racks up that damage quickly like a Tiger or Tiger P, where the longer you sit in its sights, the more damage you are taking, rather than getting it all in one big hit and then knowing they have a long reload time for you to then maneuver to a better position or get out of somewhere. So this tank, it's very good at keeping people tracked and things like that. And yeah, if you get people out in the open, you can punish them for going out into the open, and they'll very quickly realise that, yeah, this tank can pack a punch. So, looking at the basic stats there, overall, not particularly too great. They're not particularly bad. I mean, the gun is particularly average. Gun is particularly average for being, a 17-pounder in a tier 7 heavy tank. It's not exactly ideal. And, the armour's nothing particularly too great, nor is the manoeuvrability, so it's very much an average/below average heavy tank. It's not particularly too bad. I remember having fun in this tank when I drove it. It's not particularly too bad at anything, it's just not particularly amazing at anything. It's like the Devastator in Crimson Skies. It's not a particularly bad plane, but then it's not particularly amazing at anything either. So yeah, that's sort of like the long short of it. As for consumables, you've of course got your standard repair, first aid, fire, you've got your engine power, you've got your adrenaline, and you've got your all three rolled into one multi-purpose, which is pretty standard now. As for provisions, you've got your standard and improved fuel for 3 and 10% respectively to engine power and turret traverse. Then you've got black tea and pudding, which is 3 and 10% respectively to crew mastery. And then this is just a multi-purpose protective kit, 15% protection to crew from injuries, 10% speed and mod repair, 20% fire protection, 10% ammo and fuel tank durability, which is all that, and we're all pretty familiar with that. As for ammo, it does carry a bunch of rounds, 74 rounds of ammunition, likely to get you through even the fiercest of battles, so you can go ahead and mount up as much AP, HE or APCR ammo as you wish, and you're never likely to run out of it at any time in the battle. As for the equipment, I would say gun rammer to get that rate of fire up. You could go with calibrated shells to get to 180 average pen, but honestly it's far better to just go with the gun rammer to get that rate of fire down, reload time down, and rate of fire up. More damage quickly is how this tank survives. And then improved modules is, going to be best. You don't want to get detract because your armour will not withstand the shells like something like a Tiger P or a Tankenstein will. So you don't want to get yourself shot at. You want to keep yourself hidden, if that's possible in a heavy tank, but hidden as much as possible. And then again, improved optics. I mean, don't go for camo net because it's a heavy tank. You don't want to be left behind in the field, and whilst it is a particularly, it's an alright gun. Where's the stats for dispersion? Yeah, 0.32. It's very accurate with a good aim time, 3.3 seconds. So you could be a sniper if you wanted to, but again, you're a heavy tank, so you have a bunch of HP. But at the same time, you could go with the more sniping heavy tank role, which if you do, you might as well go all out. So go with, camo net and all that. But yeah, I'd say improved optics. And then you've got enhanced gun lane drive and supercharge. You don't really need enhanced gun lane drive because it's very accurate anyway, and it's got a good aim time anyway, so you don't really need to go with enhanced gun lane drive, so you might as well go for supercharge to stop that penetration dropping off as quickly, because with the penetration that you have, 171, it's good enough for tier 7, but against tier 8 tanks it'll struggle. So you want to keep as much penetration as much as possible, especially if you're going for the sniper build for this tank. So yeah, you want to go with that for the extra shell velocity and penetration decrease over distance. And then improved assembly. Don't bother going enhanced armour, as we covered with the armour. It's not fantastic. It's not amazing. So yeah, improved assembly for that extra HP. And then I would say improved control to get that hull traverse up to over 30 degrees per second, which is sort of like my sort of standard midpoint for a heavy tank for traverse speed. You could go with engine accelerator to get that power to weight up by 1 and get an extra couple of miles per hour top speed and hull traverse and stuff, but I would say improved control is the best idea for this tank. And again, you don't really want to go with a refined gun because it's a very accurate gun anyway. 0.29 is pretty much just overkill at that point, so you might as well go for vertical stabilizers for any light tanks or medium tanks that are trying to circle around you, so vertical stabilizer so you can hit them better. And it also helps you track targets on the move, because this is a very fast firing gun. You don't really need to let it aim because, well, you can just keep snapping off shots at tanks going out in the open, so vertical stabilizer is probably a better idea. Then enhanced tracks to get your suspension up, or toolbox, it's really up to you, and the same with whatever the hell those two things are. So overall, it's not a particularly fantastic tank. That's a weak spot I forgot to mention that I've only just noticed. But yeah, it's not a particularly great tank, but it's also not particularly terrible. Nothing really lets it down, other than perhaps armour for a tier 7 heavy tank. But yeah, it's not particularly immobile, it's not particularly mobile at the same time. The Tiger outshines it in terms of top speed and things. If we have a look, yeah, it's got a better top speed and, you know, same or better actually power to weight ratio, better hull traverse as well. So yeah, the Tiger outshines it in terms of mobility, but at the same time, it could be worse. It could be a Tankenstein in terms of maneuverability, or a T28 HTC. So it's not particularly bad, it's not particularly good. However, the same can be said with the gun. The 17 pounder is a very good, reliable gun. It's got decent enough penetration for a 76mm gun, but at the same time, on a heavy tank, it's not particularly great either. It's just a sort of mediocre tank. It's a good all-rounder, I suppose you could say, or it's just a bit average. But you can get a rather fetching Union Jack to cover your tank, which is, you know, a big selling point, I suppose you could say. But yeah, so that is the FV201. A distinctly average tank, but still rather fun to play. And yeah, it's just your standard sort of British heavy tank, I suppose you could also define it as. But yes, I'll thank you all for watching, and goodbye.